And if we note that this particular channel or avenue is closed, we feel concerned for the individual and wonder where their next supply or business or home will come from. In the same way, if we watch the fruit being taken from the tree and have no knowledge of the principle of supply operating as the life of the tree, we might be concerned for the future supply of fruit. In other words, if we judge life from what we behold with our 5 physical senses, we are hypnotized to the world of appearances, and we are thereby in bondage to person, place, and thing. As we become unhypnotized or dehypnotized, so that we do not look at the world as it appears to be, we find an entirely different situation. I would like to use the illustration of the theater. Let us suppose that we are in a theater watching the performance, and we have observed the villain doing his worst and have developed a concern for what he will do to the hero and the heroine in the next act. However, if we are theater-wise, we will not be concerned about the villain in the piece, since we know that there is a greater authority, that is, the author of the play. The villain, in and of himself, cannot be a villain. The villain, in and of himself, can do nothing to the hero or the heroine or to the action of the play. The author and the idea of the play in the consciousness of the author determines what the villain will do and what will happen to the hero and the heroine. Always remember that even the good characters in the play cannot be good any more than the evil characters can be evil. The determining influence throughout the play is the mind of the author. Once this is established in our thought, we do not look to the good characters or the bad characters for anything except the excellence of their performance. But the idea of the play is the activity of the mind of the author, merely expressed or carried out through the acting of the characters on stage. We might learn to adopt that method of looking at life in general. And instead of fearing what this person or circumstance or situation can do to us, and instead of being overly excited about the good that this one or that one may bring about in our experience, we might look behind the scene to the infinite invisible, which is the mind of the author, God. God is the author and finisher of our work, of our world. And if we look to God, the one mind, the infinite intelligence, and the divine love of this universe, we will find that regardless of what any individual or group of individuals may appear to be doing in any given moment, in the final analysis, the decision rests with the great author, God, the one mind and the one soul of the entire universe. Since God is the mind of individual man, it follows that man can only carry out the lines given him by the great author. Since the nature of that mind is love, truth, principle, it necessarily follows that only such qualities and only such activities can become a part of our universe. Right here, let me say that it is true that there are many people in the world who do not know that they receive their lines direct from the author, and that they are but the vehicles for the carrying out of the divine plan. And these people have set up the word I, or me, or mine, within themselves. And they live out from the basis of I, me, or mine, and thereby bring themselves ultimately to disaster, since no one in and of themselves can write their own part. It takes the mind of the great author, the great architect of the universe, to plan and to direct, and as we become obedient to that direction, we find our lives God-governed, harmoniously maintained and sustained. Here the question arises, but cannot these people who do not recognize God's government and who hold the issue of good and evil within themselves, can they not influence our experience and spoil our demonstration? The answer is no, they cannot. As we individually and steadfastly look to God as the author and finisher of our work, of our world, as we steadfastly hold to the truth that the government is upon His shoulders, and that the visible scene is but the idea of God made manifest, that the visible is but the plan and work of the great author and architect made visible as our individual experience, as we hold to this, all those who do not bring themselves under the divine law are either healed or removed from our experience. It is not possible to heal everyone who comes within range of our thought, since there must be a preparedness and a willingness for healing. You will recall that the Master did not heal Judas, but Judas did not bring about the death of the Master, although eventually he destroyed himself. The Master survived the experience. In the case of Peter, even the Master could not prevent Peter denying him 3 times. But in the case of Peter, there was a healing. So in our experience, it becomes necessary for us to break the sense of mesmerism that holds us in the belief that person or circumstance in and of themselves have power or jurisdiction over our affairs, and rather, in spite of every appearance, hold to the truth that only the infinite invisible governs, controls, supports, maintains, and sustains us. The infinite invisible, acting as man and circumstance, helps us to play our part in the play of life. Through this steadfast holding to the truth, those who become a part of our experience as family, friends, fellow citizens, either become healed and take their normal and natural place in our experience, or they are removed from the range of our experience, where they can have no further influence upon us or upon the harmony of our existence. Now remember this: God, the infinite invisible, is the creative principle of this universe. The universe shows forth the handiwork of God. It shows forth divine law and order. It shows forth the loving qualities, the spiritual activities. But we experience this only in proportion as we understand that the people and things and situations of this world do not in and of themselves have power, but that they are the vehicle for the operation of the infinite invisible. We may, of course, return to the illustration of the theater and remember that regardless of appearance, every character is showing forth the activity of the author, and that no character, no situation has within itself any element not given unto it by the author. Therefore, the end must come out as the author has planned it. Or we may look to our illustration of the tree, and regardless of how bare the branches may seem of leaves and flowers and fruit, we may look with our higher intelligence and behold that in the ground, in the roots, in the tree, a law is at work. We call it the law of nature. And in its due time, the leaves, the flowers, and the fruit will appear. Not because of any virtue of the tree, not by any virtue of the ground or of the roots, but by virtue of the infinite, invisible law of life which functions in the ground, in the roots, in the trunk and in the branches, inside and outside the tree. It even operates in the heavens to bring moisture to the tree. It operates in the streams and in the ground to bring moisture to the tree. It operates in the minerals and substances of the earth to bring to that tree and to attract to that tree everything necessary for its development. In my writings, I have called attention to the fact that mesmerism, hypnotic suggestion, is really the one evil. And now I ask you to see that hypnotism is that which would make you look at person, place, thing, circumstance, and condition, and have you believe that the issues of life abide in these. Whereas spiritual intelligence, spiritual wisdom, spiritual intuition would have you say and realize and know that person, place, thing, circumstance, or conditions are the vehicles for the carrying out of the divine plan, for the unfoldment of the plan and play as it has been understood in the mind which is God. In this wise, then, we will not look to any person for our satisfaction, for our companionship, for our supply, but rather will we understand that whoever it is at this moment playing that part in our experience is really carrying out the divine activity of love and of life. And should these for any reason be removed, the author of the universe has already provided another player for that part. Should we find any door of supply closed to us, we will understand that it is the activity of the mind of the author operating for the good of the entire play. Therefore, that the same mind has in advance provided another source, another avenue or channel for us. Dehypnotization consists of enjoying the visible scene, knowing that, unseen to the senses, hidden from the eye, is the divine source, the infinite invisible, the grand architect of the universe, the great author of the play of life. Every unpleasant person or experience plays a part in our lives. But until the time comes that we have learned the lesson not to judge by appearances, not to remain happy or unhappy by the outer picture, but to enjoy every experience through which we go, enjoying the beauties of nature, enjoying the love of friends and relatives, but always with the infinite invisible in our consciousness as the source of this good. Always remember, when seeing beautiful scenery, that it is the activity of the infinite invisible that is appearing to you as this beauty. Always remember, when you meet loving and kind friends and associates, when you meet with experiences of justice, benevolence, that it is the infinite invisible, the activity of the divine mind, that is appearing to you through these individuals or as these individuals. Whenever you meet with negative experiences, remember that these can only exist as the belief that the power lies within the person or circumstance. And as you correct this belief within you and understand that no individual and no circumstance and no condition in or of itself has such power over you, in that proportion do you become free of the discord and inharmony. You have the direct example of that in the experience of the Master, where he tells Pilate that Pilate has no power over him except that it come from the Father. Here you have the recognition that power does not lie in man. When these experiences of inharmony and discord appear, usually as some person or through some person, it becomes necessary to know that only the lines and parts written in by the great author have power, and that any other part or any other lines in the play or any other action not placed there by the great author is not power, has no means of maintaining or sustaining itself, and can have no effect upon our experience. So when some Pilate says, I can do this or that to you, or I can give this or that to you, or even I can withhold this or that from you, always remember that there is only one I that can do these things, and that I is God. The activity of the great I that I am. The I that is God. Only such activity can be brought to your experience and to fruition. No claim of an I, of a selfhood apart from God, can maintain itself, can do anything, or be anything, or cause anything. Nor can there be any effect from any I or any other selfhood other than that which is God. Here is your reliance on spiritual government, the realization that the infinite invisible is the source of all harmony, all good, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and that anything or anybody or any circumstance or condition claiming to exist by virtue of an I or selfhood apart from God is not power, is not presence, is not reality, is not cause, and therefore can produce no effect. There need be no concern for anyone or anything or any result, since all that takes place is for the showing forth of God, and it is God showing itself forth, God revealing its harmonies, its powers, its beauties, and completeness. How can we doubt God's ability? It is not our understanding, our power and wisdom that is necessary, but the knowledge that all effect is God's responsibility, God's government, God's grace. The only reason there ever is or ever was error in any form is due to the belief of an I other than God. This false sense of I, with its need to support itself, supply itself, maintain itself, plan and do for itself, and not having the wisdom or power, has produced every discord and inharmony. The restoration of harmony comes with the giving up of this false sense of I through the realization of God as the only selfhood, God as the life, principle, power, substance, and being of all that is. Hidden between the lines of this message is the secret of life, more especially the secret of the infinite way. You will remember that Paul reminds us that to be carnally minded is death, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So then, they that are in the flesh cannot please God. Now, instead of looking at our tree and trying to increase the fruit on the branches, instead of looking at our play in the theater and trying to change the action on stage, let us, in those two places and in our individual lives, take our thought away from the visible scene and retire into God. Get back into the mind of God. Get back deep down into God consciousness. Then, looking out from God, we behold this universe as it is. Then we have Paul telling us, "But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you." Now, the moment that you take your thought off of your problem, the moment that you take your thought off of the problem of your patient or of your student and retire back in God, be silent, be still, listen for that still small voice until actually you feel a divine presence or sense the presence or even hear the actual voice of God. Then you will know that the Spirit of God, the consciousness of the truth, is coming into manifestation and expression visibly. You know, of course, that just as 2 times 2 are always 4, and that we merely become aware of it, so let us remind ourselves that since harmony is the law of God, it is ever with us. It is our dwelling in the flesh, that is, putting power in effect, that is the living of the life of flesh, that takes us out of the law of God and away from the experience of harmony. And so It is getting back into God, looking out upon this world from the center of God consciousness, that we behold that harmony already is. We do not have to correct the action of the play. We do not have to hang fruit on the trees to get more fruit. We merely look out from spirit and behold a spiritual universe, harmonious, complete, perfect, whole, well, spiritual. This is Joel saying aloha from Honolulu.